this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence, that this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken.
Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah speaking about yesterday's assassination of Charlie Kirk. A manhunt is still underway this hour for the person who killed the prominent conservative activist who was fatally shot yesterday while speaking at an event at Utah Valley University. Video from the scene shows Kirk, who co-founded the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA, engaging with the crowd when a single shot rang out and struck him in the neck. Eyewitnesses describe the moments surrounding this horrific act of violence.
Did you hear the gunshot?
Yeah, we did. We heard the gunshot and people just started dropping, and so my wife, my biggest concern was getting her down and laying on top of her. I looked over and saw him as he was falling out of his chair, and I saw the blood coming out of his neck. And it was just, people panicking, kind of chaos. But everybody worked together. Everybody kind of came together and was, what can we do to help everybody and get everyone safe?
I just remember the pop and everyone looking around questioning the same question, and I was questioning if that could have been a real gun. Kind of sounded like a louder version of a pop gun. And then there was like a more military stature looking man in front of us, and he was pushing people down saying, everyone get down, that's a gunshot. And then the next thing you know is you're just trying to look for your exits, and he's saying to stay down, but do you run? Do you stay down? Do you crawl? You don't know what to do.
Kirk was brought to an area hospital where he later died. President Trump formally announced Kirk's death on social media, writing in part, quote, "No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us."
The newspapers obviously leading with this. Charlie Kirk on the front of the New York Post, top of the Daily News here also today, anniversary of 9/11. The Wall Street Journal headline, conservative activist Kirk is shot dead. And the New York Times, Charlie Kirk killed, of course, in Utah. And, I said here, I spoke with, we talked to the president from time to time. I certainly spoke with the president after Butler, Pennsylvania, to call and offer my condolences, and did the same thing last night because I knew he was close to Charlie. And he said Charlie was a great man. And Willie, he talked about how he was a singular talent for this time, especially for the conservative movement. And President Trump even talked about how Charlie Kirk played a huge role in helping him get elected, the voter registration drives, going to college campuses. Before the election, we were talking about how Republicans were depending on young men to get out to the election. And, that hardly ever happens. It's usually you focus on older voters to get out to the polls and vote, and high propensity voters, younger men, college students, were always lower propensity voters. And after the election, people stood back and were shocked. So why did this happen? Well, Donald Trump explained last night one of the reasons that happened was told me it was because of Charlie Kirk.
And he's right about that. I mean, Charlie Kirk started an organization called Turning Point USA, for people who don't know, more than a dozen years ago, focused on campuses. It has more than 800 chapters now. And he was, as a matter of fact, instrumental in Donald Trump's reelection. A very close friend, not just a political ally, but a friend of Vice President Vance. And Don Jr. called him a little brother yesterday. They're very close as well. So they do give him a large portion of the credit for that victory. And this is, at first, a human tragedy. This is a young man who was killed in broad daylight in front of 3,000 of his supporters. And his wife and his 2 young children were there. They'll grow up without a father. That's the human part of this. And if there's anything to be taken from this, it is the near universal condemnation of what happened yesterday. I have in front of me statements from every living president condemning this, offering their prayers and support for Charlie Kirk's family. Republican, Democrat as well. You have flags being ordered to half staff in states run by Democratic governors, Pennsylvania and Colorado. There is a statement being made. The president has made it as well. And of course, there are always people on the fringe on social media who are going to be idiots and celebrate the horrible moments like this. But there is near universal condemnation from political leadership for this act of violence and all acts of violence. And this is a really important moment for our leaders to step up and say that again and again. Speaker Johnson said it yesterday, and then Minority Leader Jeffries said almost the same thing. So we're getting it from both sides of the aisle, and let's hope that holds.
Well, let's hope that holds, and it also from leadership of this network. Somebody came on, Matthew Dowd, yesterday, came on and made a wild speculation that was obviously wrong and extraordinarily hurtful to many people. And Rebecca Cutler said so last night, came out and condemned his words in the strongest terms. So we're glad that she did that. This obviously, though, and we're going to be getting into just what he did, so those who don't understand the extraordinary impact Charlie Kirk has had on American politics will have a better understanding that this guy that was a podcaster for 2 hours a day, that's a job in and of itself. He ran organizations all over college campuses, the best organized person Democrats would have loved to have for their version of Charlie Kirk. A fundraising operation, Jonathan, where, raised well over $100 million and used so much of that to get out the vote. He organized it for the 6 swing states. And again, as Donald Trump told me last night and has told other people, was the difference maker in some of those states.
Yeah, and it can't be said enough. Charlie Kirk was like family to the Trump brothers in particular, Donald Trump Jr. in particular. The 2 men vacationed together, frequently traveled together for work and also for hunting or fishing trips and the like. It was, in fact, Donald Trump Jr. and Kirk, it was their advocacy that really got J.D. Vance on the ticket to be Trump's running mate last year. And Trump himself, the president, very fond of Kirk. Kirk was a frequent visitor to Mar-a-Lago, to the White House, and Kirk got a lot of credit. Indeed, I covered a number of these Turning Point events, in all 3 of these elections that featured Donald Trump. And it is a remarkable rise of the conservative male white men in particular. Kirk on college campuses was a big part of that, and he does get a lot of credit for what we have seen in recent years. That's why it was so unsettling to those in the White House when Kirk occasionally would break with Trump, including in the early days of the Jeffrey Epstein matter, and then so much that Trump himself called him and said, "Look, I want to talk to you about this." That shows you just the impact he had, how much they cared about what he thought, and the platform that he had. And Willie, of course, what happened yesterday, a horrible tragedy, but becoming all too common. Political violence on the rise in a deeply, not just depressing, but dangerous way in this country. We've seen a number of incidents just this year alone.
Yeah, I was struck yesterday by how young men I know, teenagers, were hit by this. And again, none of this is an endorsement of all of his views. Certainly not that. But the point is, it's a condemnation of using violence to settle your disagreements with somebody over their views. I think most of us at this table disagree with a lot of what Charlie Kirk would say.
But this is not the answer.
But this obviously is not the answer. This cannot happen.
Well, there's been a rough and tumble in American politics for 240 years. If you don't believe that, read the history books. But I will say, Yeah, young people were really shaken by this yesterday.
Happened on a college campus. He's very young.
We heard about it. I mean, he was all over.
Man.
Even for people, even for younger Americans not involved in politics, Charlie Kirk showed up in their social media feeds every day.
Mm-hmm.
They knew him very well. He was, again, whether they were into politics or not, he was an influencer in their lives. He shaped debate in a way that, Mika, not many young, not many political figures have and do.